Love is a wonderful thing, but it is not always simple. There are moments when you feel like you understand everything, but then there are times when you feel confused and lost. So how to overcome the challenges in love? Have you ever felt something was off in your relationship, even though everything seemed fine on the surface? Sweet words, thoughtful gestures, yet, you couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping away. Sometimes, the kindest phrases are actually hiding the harshest truths. There are subtle lies, masked as care and concern, that signal a love fading away. In this article, we'll uncover the 8 most common lies men tell when they no longer love you, helping you spot the signs before they become impossible to ignore. The truth is often buried beneath the surface. Let's dig deeper. Welcome to the channel, Sophia's Knowledge, and my name is Sophia. This is where we will explore, learn, and share valuable lessons about love. In today's video, Sophia will reveal to you 8 common lies men tell when they're no longer in love. Let's explore with Sophia the secrets to building a strong and meaningful love. Before we begin, find a quiet place, put on your headphones and relax. Let all your worries go away, and let the messages in this video help you calm down and feel the most complete. Are you ready? Let's start now. Number 1. I'm too busy. When love gets lost in excuses. We've all heard it before. That one phrase that stings more than it should. I'm too busy. 3 simple words that hold a world of meaning. At first, it seems harmless, even understandable. Life gets hectic. Work piles up. Responsibilities grow. But when it starts to become the default answer, the routine excuse, it's time to ask, busy with what, and more importantly, busy from who? In the beginning of a relationship, there's magic. He makes time. No matter how packed his schedule is, he finds little pockets in his day just to say hi, check on you, or tell you he misses you. He remembers your meetings, your cravings, your late-night thoughts. Time, somehow, bends to fit you both in. But then one day, something shifts. The messages slow down. Calls are missed, and not returned. Your shared routines begin to fade. And when you ask, gently, hopefully, what's going on, he sighs and says, I'm just really busy these days. At first, you believe him. Of course you do. You know he's got work stress, family stuff, maybe even personal goals. You try to be understanding. Supportive. You don't want to seem needy. You don't want to nag. So you give him space, thinking it's just a phase. But the phase doesn't end. What was once the exception becomes the rule. Texts go unread. Plans get postponed. Affection feels like a memory. And each time you muster the courage to ask what's happening, the answer is the same, flat, distant, and frustratingly familiar, I'm too busy. Here's the truth most of us don't want to admit: when someone truly wants to be in your life, they make time. They don't need reminders, ultimatums, or emotional pleas. Their actions naturally align with their feelings. Because love, when real, doesn't hide behind packed calendars or endless to-do lists. It finds a way. That's not to say people aren't genuinely busy. Life can be overwhelming. But there's a difference between someone who is temporarily overwhelmed and someone who's emotionally checked out. The former tries, even in small ways. The latter disappears behind silence, using busy as a shield to avoid difficult conversations and growing distance. So why do some men say they're too busy when they're not in love anymore? Because it's easier. It's easier than saying, I don't feel the same way. It's easier than admitting they've emotionally drifted. It's easier than facing the guilt of hurting someone who still cares. Saying I'm busy allows them to avoid confrontation while keeping the door slightly open, just in case. It keeps things vague. Non-committal. It buys time. It spares feelings, but only on the surface. Because beneath that thin layer of courtesy, it causes confusion, doubt, and quiet heartbreak. You start to wonder, did I do something wrong? Am I asking for too much? Am I not worth a reply anymore? But deep down, you know the answer. You always have. The moment love turns into an afterthought, you feel it. In the silence. In the excuses. In the way his name no longer makes your heart skip the way it used to, but instead, fills you with dread. And that's the moment you must decide what you deserve. You deserve someone who chooses you, consistently, not just when it's convenient. Someone who doesn't use busy as a curtain to hide disinterest. Someone who understands that being emotionally present is more valuable than any calendar can measure. If he's too busy for you, perhaps it's time to be too busy for the version of love that makes you question your worth. Because love isn't found in schedules. It's found in effort. And if he can't make the effort, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop waiting. What do you think about this? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. I look forward to hearing from you and discussing further. Don't forget to like if you find this content useful and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future posts. Thank you very much. Let's continue together. Number 2. I need time for myself. When space means separation. There's a delicate moment in many relationships. A turning point. A shift in the energy that's hard to name but impossible to ignore. It's when everything still looks the same on the outside, but inside, something feels off. And then he says it. I need time for myself. It's soft, maybe even apologetic. He doesn't want to hurt you, that's clear. His voice is calm, careful. He might say it with his head slightly down, as if he's the one feeling guilty. And perhaps he is. Or perhaps he just doesn't know how to tell you the truth. At first, it sounds reasonable. We all need time for ourselves. Time to reflect. Time to breathe. In a healthy relationship, space is natural. It's even necessary. But there's a difference between needing space and using it as a way to disconnect. The difference is in the intention. It's in what happens after he asks for time. Does he come back with more clarity, more commitment, more care? Or does he slowly start to fade, leaving you in a kind of emotional limbo where you're still his, but not really? When a man says, I need time for myself, it can mean many things. Sometimes, yes, he's overwhelmed. Life feels too heavy. Work is draining him. He's lost touch with who he is, and he needs to recenter. That kind of honesty deserves understanding. But other times, those words are just a softer way to begin the slow retreat. They're a placeholder. A pause. A way to step back without saying goodbye. Because he's not ready to leave, not brave enough to end it, but also not invested enough to stay. So he asks for time. For space. For solitude. And you, because you love him, give it to him. You wait. You check your phone. You tell yourself it's just a phase. That he'll come back clearer, more present, more in love. But as days turn into weeks, and your heart grows heavy with waiting, you start to wonder, was it really about him needing time? Or was it about him needing a way out? Here's the painful truth that many avoid. When someone is truly committed to you, they won't need to step away to figure out if they want you in their life. Love, when it's real, doesn't seek escape when things get confusing, it seeks connection. A partner who loves you might say, I'm struggling right now, but I want you to be part of this process. Not, I need time for myself, followed by silence and emotional distance. Too often, I need time becomes a mask for emotional uncertainty. It buys time, not for healing, but for indecision. It lets one person drift while the other holds on, waiting for a promise that may never come. And in the waiting, something breaks. You start questioning your worth. You wonder if you were too much. If you should have seen it coming. You replay every moment, looking for clues. Meanwhile, he is out there, rediscovering his life, possibly exploring other options, while you are frozen in place. This isn't what love should feel like. Love is not an unanswered question. It's not a timeout in the middle of your most vulnerable moments. It doesn't leave you on read. It doesn't take without giving. And it certainly doesn't disappear into vague silences dressed up as self-care. If someone truly needs time for themselves, they will still find a way to reassure you. To keep you informed. To make you feel safe, even in their temporary distance. Because needing space should not feel like abandonment. So if you find yourself on the receiving end of this sentence, if you hear the words, "I need time for myself," and everything in you clenches with uncertainty, pause and ask yourself, is he stepping away to grow, or stepping away to leave? Because your heart deserves clarity, not confusion. You deserve a love that doesn't hide behind gentle lies. You deserve someone who doesn't need to step outside of your life to realize your worth. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop waiting for someone to come back and start walking towards something better. And maybe, just maybe, that time he needed for himself is the exact time you needed to find your own peace. If you are still watching the video, do not hesitate to comment continue. Leave your thoughts and questions below in the comment section. I look forward to hearing your opinions, and do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that Sophia has more motivation to create more good and meaningful videos. Let's continue together. Number 3. I'm not good enough for you. When guilt becomes an exit strategy. It often comes without warning. A quiet conversation. A sigh before the words. And then he says it, gently but firmly, "I'm not good enough for you." At first, it stuns you. Not because you believe it, but because it sounds so selfless, so sincere. Like he's trying to protect you from himself. Like he's stepping aside for your sake, not his. He's not walking away because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much, or so it seems. It's the kind of sentence that leaves you speechless, because how do you argue against someone claiming to be unworthy of you? You want to say, "That's not true." You want to say, "You are good enough." You want to fix whatever it is that made him feel this way. But the truth is, this line, however poetic it sounds, is rarely about actual unworthiness. More often than not, it's a subtle way to disconnect without admitting to the real reason. Because "I'm not good enough for you" is rarely about guilt. It's about avoidance. It avoids hard conversations. It avoids accountability. It avoids the uncomfortable act of saying, "I don't feel the same anymore." To say, "I'm not good enough" is to make the breakup feel noble, even protective. It shifts the spotlight onto him, onto his internal struggle. And in doing so, it takes the pressure off the real issue. His heart is no longer in it. It's a gentle retreat disguised as virtue. But here's the thing, people don't leave because they're not good enough. They leave because they're done. Because their feelings have changed. Because they've stopped trying. And instead of admitting that, they wrap their exit in something that sounds like love, but isn't. It sounds romantic, even tragic. Like he's sacrificing something beautiful for your own good. But if you look closer, it's not sacrifice. It's surrender. Because when someone truly believes they're not good enough for you, and they love you, they don't leave. They rise. They grow. They fight to become good enough. Love, after all, isn't about perfection. It's about effort. And effort is what makes someone worthy, not what they have or lack. So when he says, "I'm not good enough for you," ask yourself, is he walking away because he's struggling to become better for the relationship, or because he's using that line to gracefully exit it? Because here's the reality most don't want to say out loud. People use this line when they no longer want to try but don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want you to hate them. They don't want confrontation. So they step back under the guise of humility. But there's nothing humble about disappearing without honesty. You deserve someone who shows up fully. Not someone who leaves you with a riddle of false modesty. You deserve real communication, not cryptic lines that leave you second-guessing your worth or the past you shared. Because make no mistake, when someone says, "I'm not good enough for you," they are not complimenting you. They are distancing themselves from the emotional responsibility of loving you properly. They are trying to walk away without admitting they've already left, long before the words were spoken. And maybe that's the hardest part to accept, not that you weren't enough, but that they stopped wanting to be. So if someone ever tells you, "I'm not good enough for you," don't fall into the trap of chasing their approval. Don't try to convince them otherwise. Don't lower your standards to make them stay. Instead, take their words for what they really are, a quiet confession that they're no longer willing to grow with you. And that's your cue, not to fight for them, but to walk towards someone who doesn't need to be convinced that they belong by your side. Because someone who is truly right for you won't tell you they're not enough. They'll show you, every day, that they are. Number 4. I still love you, it's just that. When love becomes an excuse. It sounds like reassurance. It sounds like comfort. I still love you, it's just that. He says it when the tension builds, when you're on the edge of asking the hard questions. He says it when things don't feel the same anymore, when his calls come less often, when he pulls away instead of leaning in, when the warmth in his eyes starts to fade. And those words catch you. They give you just enough to hold on. Just enough to quiet your fears for another day. Because if he still loves you, it can't be over, right? But here's what no one tells you. I still love you means nothing when it's followed by a list of reasons why he can't show it anymore. I still love you, it's just that I need space. I still love you, it's just that I'm not ready for a relationship. I still love you, it's just that things are complicated right now. These aren't explanations. They're delays. They're vague, emotional placeholders meant to soften the blow of a truth that's already there. He's slipping away. Because real love doesn't ask you to sit in uncertainty. It doesn't keep one foot out the door. It doesn't use affection as a cover for absence. Love, when it's strong and honest, takes responsibility. It shows up. Even when things are hard. Especially when things are hard. But when someone says, I still love you, it's just that, they're trying to have both. The comfort of your presence, without the commitment of full honesty. They want to ease their guilt without giving you clarity. And in doing so, they create the most painful space of all, limbo. You're not together, but you're not apart. You're not moving forward, but you can't move on. You're stuck in the echo of a love that used to be loud, now whispered in half sentences and uncertain pauses. And because the words I still love you carry so much weight, you hold on. You wait. You hope. You justify. You tell yourself he's just going through something. That love is still there, buried beneath stress or fear or confusion. That if you just hold on a little longer, things will return to the way they were. But time passes. The calls stay short. The messages feel forced. The affection becomes effort. And you begin to understand, love alone is not enough. Because even if he still loves you, if he's not willing to fight for it, show up for it, and grow with it, then what does that love actually do? It doesn't protect you. It doesn't choose you. It doesn't stay. Sometimes people say I love you when they really mean I loved you once, and I don't know how to let go without hurting you. Sometimes they mean I don't want to be the bad guy. Sometimes they mean I don't know how to say goodbye. But none of those things are the love you deserve. Because the love you deserve doesn't come with disclaimers. It doesn't make you question your place in someone's life. It doesn't offer half-truths wrapped in sentiment. You deserve someone who says I love you and follows it with action. with effort, with clarity, with presence. Not with distance. Not with excuses. Not with just that. So if you hear those words, I still love you, it's just that, listen to the silence that follows. Listen to the way he no longer shows up. Listen to how often you're left wondering. And then ask yourself, is this love sustaining you, or is it holding you back? Because you can spend months, or even years, waiting for someone to mean the words they say. Or you can choose to stop surviving on crumbs and seek the kind of love that feeds your soul without hesitation. Love should never leave you guessing. And the love that's meant for you will never need to be justified. Number 5. She's just a friend. When boundaries blur and truth hides behind familiar words, there's a certain tone to it. Calm. Dismissive. Rehearsed. She's just a friend. He says it like it's the final word, like it should instantly dissolve the doubt creeping into your chest. Like your feelings are misplaced, your instincts misfiring, your concerns unwarranted. As if labeling her friend strips away any threat, any intimacy, any question. But your heart hesitates. Because you know the way his eyes light up when her name appears on his phone. You've seen the private jokes, the late-night messages, the smiles that linger a little longer than they should. You've felt the shift, however subtle, in his energy when she's mentioned, like a spark he tries to hide. Still, he insists, she's just a friend. And because you want to trust him, because love demands some level of surrender, you bite your tongue. You tell yourself you're overthinking. You remind yourself that jealousy isn't proof. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispers, something's not right. This isn't about being possessive. This isn't about not allowing friendships outside the relationship. This is about emotional transparency, and the blurred lines he refuses to acknowledge. Because sometimes, just a friend is exactly that. But sometimes, it's a phrase used to cover something more complicated. Something he's not ready to admit. Not to you. Maybe not even to himself. She listens when he vents about you. She compliments him when you're in a rough patch. She becomes his emotional outlet, his safe space, his backup battery when your relationship starts to dim. And slowly, without touching, without crossing any explicit line, something sacred is shared, something that should have been reserved for you. That's what emotional infidelity often looks like. Quiet. Convenient. Denied. He tells you you're overreacting. That you're being dramatic. That he would never do anything to hurt you. But you've already been hurt, not by what he's done, but by how he's made you question your own reality. Because deep down, you don't want to compete with her. You don't want to have to compete. You just want to feel secure again. Seen. Chosen. But she's just a friend keeps being the wall he hides behind. A defense that dismisses the cracks instead of fixing them. And with each repetition of that phrase, he asks you to silence your instincts in exchange for peace. But peace built on silence is never real peace. The truth is, if she truly was just a friend, he would make sure you felt that. You wouldn't have to ask twice. You wouldn't feel tension. You wouldn't be left out of conversations or made to feel like the outsider in your own relationship. If she were just a friend, you would be introduced without hesitation, welcomed into that dynamic, not kept on the outside of it. But when someone says just a friend while treating her like a secret, like a safe harbor, like a priority, you start to understand that the problem isn't your jealousy. It's the imbalance. Because friendship isn't a threat. But dishonesty is. You deserve to be in a relationship where your concerns aren't dismissed with empty words. Where emotional loyalty matters as much as physical fidelity. Where your intuition is respected, not ridiculed. It's not about controlling him. It's about trust, and trust doesn't mean never asking questions. It means being able to ask them and get real answers. So if you ever find yourself doubting, not because of what you see, but because of what you feel, pay attention. Sometimes, the heart sees red flags long before the mind can name them. And sometimes, "she's just a friend" is the beginning of a sentence that ends in heartbreak. But it can also be the beginning of your own clarity, your own voice, your own choice to stop accepting emotional crumbs from someone who's already sharing the best parts of himself elsewhere. Because you don't need to compete with another woman. You need a man who knows how to protect what's his, not hide what he's not ready to let go of. Number 6. I don't want to be tied down too soon. When freedom becomes an excuse to stay unavailable. He says it carefully, like he's being honest. Like he's protecting not only himself, but you too. I don't want to be tied down too soon. It sounds fair at first. Almost noble. Like he's trying to be cautious with your heart. Like he just wants to take things slow, let them unfold naturally, without pressure or expectations. And maybe that's exactly what you want too, at first. Because who wants to rush something beautiful? Who wants to force love into a timeline? You agree. You nod. You tell yourself it's okay to let it breathe. That healthy relationships don't need labels or deadlines. But then time passes. And the closeness stays casual. The connection, while deep, floats in a strange space, intimate, yet undefined. You find yourself in a relationship that walks like love, talks like love, but never quite claims you. And every time you bring it up, every time you ask where this is going, what you mean to him, what he wants in the long run, he returns to that familiar line, "I just don't want to be tied down too soon." And suddenly, what once felt honest begins to feel like avoidance. What felt like patience now feels like postponement. What sounded like freedom begins to echo with fear. Because behind those words, there's often more than meets the eye. I don't want to be tied down too soon is rarely about timing. It's about intention, or the lack of it. It's about wanting the benefits of love without the responsibilities. About enjoying the connection, the closeness, the comfort, without having to truly commit. Without having to fully choose. It's about keeping one foot out the door. He likes having you there. He likes the attention, the warmth, the loyalty. But he doesn't want to give up his options. He doesn't want to risk being accountable to someone else's heart. So he wraps it all in the language of independence, of taking things slow, of needing space to figure things out. And he convinces you, and maybe even himself, that it's not because he doesn't care, but because he's just not ready. But here's the hard truth, someone who's truly afraid to lose you doesn't play the waiting game. Someone who sees you as their future doesn't fear commitment, they embrace it. They lean into it. They grow with it. Not because they feel pressured, but because they want to build something real. If he was genuinely not ready, he wouldn't be acting like a boyfriend while rejecting the title. He wouldn't be asking for exclusivity while refusing clarity. He wouldn't expect loyalty while giving you uncertainty. Because love doesn't live in gray areas for long. Eventually, it demands presence. Action. Direction. And while not everyone moves at the same pace, there's a difference between moving slowly and standing still. So when he says, "I don't want to be tied down too soon," ask yourself, is he protecting his growth, or protecting his freedom to leave? Is he building a future with you, or just passing time? Because your heart is not a waiting room. You are not a placeholder. You are not the warm-up for someone still unsure of their own intentions. You deserve someone who wants to build with you, not just explore what this is. Someone who sees commitment not as a cage, but as a foundation. Someone who is brave enough to say, "I choose you," even when it's early. Even when it's uncertain. Even when it's a little scary. Because love doesn't always come with perfect timing. Sometimes it shows up before we feel ready. But the right person won't let that stop them from stepping up. So if he's still hesitating, still keeping things vague, don't keep giving him time in hopes that he'll suddenly wake up and see your worth. Use that time for yourself. For your own clarity. For your own healing. Because the kind of love that changes your life will never begin with, "I'm not ready to be tied down." It will begin with, "I don't want to lose you." And that makes all the difference. Number 7. I don't want to hurt you. When care becomes a curtain for goodbye. It sounds kind. Gentle. Almost noble. I don't want to hurt you. He says it softly, maybe even with a tremble in his voice. Like he's already imagining your heartbreak and wants to spare you from it. Like this is for your good. Like he's the one protecting you from what's coming. And for a moment, you believe him. You believe that he's backing away because he cares too much. That his silence is an act of mercy. That the distance growing between you isn't rejection, it's restraint. But eventually, the truth surfaces. I don't want to hurt you doesn't stop the hurt. It just delays it. Because people don't say this when things are working. They say it when they've already started to drift, when their heart is no longer in the same place, but they don't know how to say it directly. Or worse, they do know, but they don't want to be the one responsible for the fallout. So they soften it. They tell you they're leaving because they care. That they're stepping back for your sake. That their absence is a gift of protection, not an act of emotional retreat. But the irony is cruel, you still end up hurt. Not because he meant to, but because he didn't mean enough to stay. Not because he's a villain, but because he wasn't brave enough to be honest. And the part that stings the most isn't always the goodbye, it's the way he made you feel like your pain was his reason, when in truth, it was just his exit. Because if he truly didn't want to hurt you, he wouldn't have waited until now. He wouldn't have let you invest so much, feel so deeply, believe so fully, only to quietly slip away when it became too much. Real care isn't measured in soft goodbyes. It's measured in consistency. In presence. In effort when love becomes complicated. You don't protect someone from pain by avoiding hard conversations. You protect them by telling the truth, even when it shakes the ground beneath both of you. But I don't want to hurt you often hides more than it reveals. Sometimes it means, I don't want to deal with your reaction. Sometimes it means, I've already made my decision, but I want to leave with clean hands. Sometimes it means, I want out, but I want you to think it's because I cared too much. That's the hardest part. Because when someone says they're hurting you to protect you, they turn your heartbreak into a side effect of their supposed kindness. And it leaves you in a space of deep confusion. You start to wonder, if he didn't want to hurt me, why does it hurt so much? If this was meant to protect me, why does it feel like abandonment? And slowly, you begin to see it clearly, the statement I don't want to hurt you isn't really about you. It's about him. It's about easing his guilt. It's about managing his image. It's about controlling the story of the breakup. But you deserve more than a breakup wrapped in false compassion. You deserve more than someone who walks away with a sympathetic expression and a rehearsed line. You deserve honesty, not sugar-coated endings. You deserve clarity, not gentle confusion. You deserve someone who stays and works through the mess, not someone who leaves when the emotional load becomes inconvenient. So the next time someone tells you, I don't want to hurt you, listen closely, not just to the words, but to the silence underneath them. Ask yourself, is this truly about protecting me? Or is it about preserving their own comfort? Because someone who genuinely wants to protect your heart will never put themselves in a position where they become the reason it breaks. And when someone walks away under the guise of care, remember this, the person who won't hurt you is the one who shows up, not the one who disappears kindly. Number 8. Everything's fine, I'm just stressed. When silence becomes the real problem. He says it with a tired sigh, maybe a forced half-smile. He looks at you, but not really into you. His words hang in the air like a closed door you're not invited to open. Everything's fine. I'm just stressed. At first, you believe him. Because yes, life is heavy sometimes. Work piles up. Responsibilities overwhelm. The world outside your relationship doesn't stop spinning, and stress is real. So you give him space. You hold your questions. You tell yourself he just needs time. But days go by. Then weeks. And something still feels off. The conversations that used to flow now feel stiff. His touch, once warm and natural, starts to feel absent-minded, mechanical, or worse, missing entirely. He seems like he's with you, but not present. His body is there. His heart is somewhere else. You ask again. Gently. Is something wrong? And again, the reply, it's nothing. I'm just under a lot of pressure. You want to believe it. You try to believe it. But your gut says otherwise. Because stress doesn't explain the emotional distance. Stress doesn't explain the way he avoids your eyes. Stress doesn't erase affection, or replace love with indifference. That's when the words start to feel less like truth, and more like a shield. A way to avoid the deeper conversations. A way to postpone a confession he's not ready to give. A way to emotionally check out without taking responsibility for how that affects you. And here's the hard truth, I'm just stressed can be real, but when it becomes a pattern, when it's used to deflect, dismiss, or delay emotional intimacy, it's no longer about stress. It's about avoidance. Because the person who loves you should want to let you in, even in their lowest moments. They don't need to have all the answers, but they should feel safe enough to say, I'm struggling, but I still want to show up for us. Instead, you're left in the dark. Wondering if it's really stress, or if he's just slowly slipping away. If he's overwhelmed by life, or simply looking for a quiet way out. If you're still in this together, or if you've been alone for longer than you realized. And the worst part? You start to blame yourself. Maybe you're too demanding. Maybe you're asking too much. Maybe if you were more understanding, more patient, more supportive, he wouldn't be pulling away. But no amount of patience can fix what someone won't admit. No amount of softness can reach someone who's already emotionally disconnected. Because when someone says, I'm just stressed, but won't let you near them. When they shut you out instead of letting you in. When they use pressure as a reason to retreat instead of communicate. What they're really saying is, I don't want to explain what I'm feeling. I don't know how to tell you this isn't working. I'm already halfway out the door, but I don't want to hurt you. Or face the guilt of leaving. And that hurts more than the truth ever could. Because silence doesn't protect you. It only isolates you. And pretending things are fine doesn't stop the distance. It only prolongs the pain. You deserve someone who doesn't hide behind vague excuses. You deserve a partner who communicates even when it's hard. Someone who says, I'm struggling, but I'm here, not I'm fine, as they slowly disappear. So if you're hearing I'm just stressed more than I love you, if you're feeling more confusion than connection, if you're constantly trying to decode silence instead of sharing life, it's time to ask yourself, is this really about stress? Or has he already let go, quietly, and left you holding on to a version of him that no longer exists? Because the right person might be stressed, but they won't make you feel like a stranger. And if someone continues to say everything's fine, while making you feel like nothing is, you don't need louder words. You need to start listening to the silence. Conclusion. Love rarely ends with a bang. More often, it fades quietly, disguised beneath half-truths, softened by carefully chosen words, and masked by concern that sounds like care but feels like distance. These 8 common phrases, *I'm busy, I need space, you deserve better, I still love you, but, she's just a friend, I'm not ready for commitment, I don't want to hurt you, I'm just stressed, asterisk may seem innocent or even considerate on the surface. But when repeated without action, clarity, or emotional consistency, they often reveal a deeper truth: he's already left emotionally. These aren't always lies spoken with malicious intent. Sometimes they're used to soften the blow, delay a painful conversation, or avoid confrontation. But no matter how gently wrapped, these words slowly erode trust and clarity. They keep you guessing, hoping, and waiting in the silence between lines that were never fully honest to begin with. The reality is simple. Someone who loves you shows it, not just with words, but with presence, consistency, and the courage to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. And when love begins to disappear, you deserve more than vague excuses or emotional breadcrumbs. You deserve someone who speaks with truth, not convenience. Who stays with intention, not hesitation. Who chooses you fully, not halfway, not maybe, not one day. Recognizing these subtle exits for what they are is the first step toward reclaiming your own clarity, strength, and peace. Because love should never leave you feeling confused in a room full of words. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. Hopefully the sharing about love and lessons from this video will help you have new thoughts and find empathy. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with those around you. Each of us has our own stories about love, and I'm happy to explore them with you. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and loving day.